All right, so here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening anywhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live. Right there at Coffee Talk Live, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. As we get ready to jump off here, chime off here, Tuesday. It is Tuesday. It's Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I got mixed up. Today is Wednesday the 14th. I'll go ahead. I do try to read through as many comments as is reasonable, and I'll say hello to some of the people that are joining us so far. C. Helter is with us today, as well as Brian, Dragon, Jeff, Fluke Man, Caps is with us, and hello to everyone else who is watching who is unable perhaps to chime in. I know a lot of people listen and they can't respond, and that's fine. I get it. And hello to everyone else who may be watching after the fact. I will take a moment again to remind everyone, which I'm going to do regularly here until it jumps off, that right now, currently, I am simultaneously broadcasting to two different YouTube channels, Coffee Talk and Prepper University, and that starting by the first week of June, I will exclusively be doing it on Coffee Talk. Exclusively on Coffee Talk, and that's the moniker again, youtube.com/@Coffee Talk Live. Because again, I started doing it on Prepper University really to put it on life support because of how badly that channel has been sanctioned by the powers that be. But I would like to get that channel back to its core function, which was prepping, survival, bushcraft, homesteading, that sort of thing. So we will be making that transition soon. And Pibble Pack is here, as well as Lucky. Glad you could make it today. So thanks for joining us as we get ready to jump off. Got a lot to say about Governor Newsome. Pibble says they'll join at Coffee Talk. Thank you. Yeah, just if you are watching on Prepper University, because I know a lot of people still watch there. Still 2/3 of the views for the podcast for the live are taking place on Prepper University. But please do subscribe to the Coffee Talk channel for when that transition occurs. So I'm trying to do this well enough in advance so that I can try to catch everybody to let them know that, yeah, it'll be flipping by the first week of June. I got a lot going on too. I got a lot going on. I got a lot I would like to do on that channel again. If anybody is able to find it or hear the videos or anything else, because ScrewTube has made it extremely difficult. ScrewTube has made it extremely difficult to get anything accomplished anymore. But man, we've got a lot to say about Governor Newsome today. Yeah, Lucky says new scum. Yeah, nuisance. Governor Nuisance. Career politician, and everything he does demonstrates that while he polishes off what's left of California on his way out. He was elected in, I think it was 2019, correct? Newsome was elected to governor in 2019 originally. And he is retiring in 2027. And this fool thinks he's going to run for president. Okay. He's on the back burner with Tim Walz and Kamala Harris to run for the Democrat ticket. So when he's done destroying California, he'll destroy everything else. Is that the idea? And he's rolling out his plans for California before he surrenders the ticket. Before he surrenders that ticket. And Pibble says subscribed. Thank you, Pibble. And Stacy's with us. Glad you could make it today, Stacy. And the stuff he wants to do, it sounds ridiculous. It's like, you can't be serious. You can't be serious. As we dig into this, first of all, suddenly Newsome acts like he wants to manage the homeless problem. Yes, he does. And D'Lo has joined us. D'Lo's in California. Flukeman wants us to know a British man, Peter Sullivan, has been declared innocent after spending 38 years in prison for deleting 21-year-old woman in 87. I think he'll be lucky to get 5 million pounds, which is roughly 7 million USD. Wow. It ain't worth it, though, because that's 38 years of his life. You can't pay for that. Almost 4 decades. And Raccoon has joined us as we get ready to open up the first story here. Like I said, I got a lot to say about Governor Newsome today. He's going to take up some time. This will be a Fox News article that'll be popping up here in a moment. And it says Newsome unveils aggressive plan to clear the homeless encampments across California. Quote, no more excuses. Really? Because this is a problem that has gotten out of control on your watch. And I wonder what the article lost. Am I still there? Because I see a blank. Here I am. Hopefully I didn't disappear completely. You could still hear me. This is a state that lost something like, what was it, 33 billion dollars that was supposed to go to the homeless, and they don't know where it is or how it was spent. That was on Newsome's watch. That was happening while he's been governor. He knew about it. They lost another 30-something billion to Chinese hackers, allegedly, from their state revenue. They lost another 30-something billion. It's funny how it's always around 30. That disappeared from their unemployment benefits. They don't know where the hell it is. I think the 30 billion that was hacked was from COVID relief money. All on Newsome's watch. So California Governor Gavin Newsom released details about his multi-billion-dollar plan to tackle the homeless crisis in the Golden State, and is pushing cities and counties to take immediate action. You already had billions for this. You already had billions for this. Where did it go? You don't know, because you kept no records. The money was spent. They don't know on what, where it went, and who got it. And that needs to be investigated on a federal level. On Monday, Newsom shared a model ordinance for cities and counties to immediately address dangerous and unhealthy encampments and connect people experiencing homelessness with shelter and services. They don't want your help. Something I've talked about many times. Many times. I've worked with the homeless. So has my wife. They do not want your help. If they want a shelter, they know where the hell it is. If they want a shower, they know where the hell it is. If they want rehab treatment, they know where to find it. They don't want your help. Furthermore, the state has made it too easy. Too easy. Quote, there's nothing compassionate about letting people die on the streets, Newsom said in a news release. He has not demonstrated that kind of compassion for the last 6 years. Remember, he's been governor since 2019. The ordinance is backed in part by a $3.3 billion in new Prop 1 funding Newsom's office has announced, adding the governor is calling on all local governments to act without delay. Yeah, get right on it, because I want to run for president, jackass. Newsom is also encouraging local leaders to use their authority affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court to address encampments. You want to sweep them away. You want to bury them. You want what happened to the homeless encampments in RoboCop and in They Live to happen on the streets of California, where people just disappear and you never hear from them again. The governor is calling on every local government to adopt and implement local policies without office has said. Newsom's office said this model ordinance draws from the state's proven and workable approach. Nothing in California works, especially not anything involving the homeless. It's gotten worse every single year. Every year. And you want to talk that you have a proven and workable approach. Okay. An approach that between July 2021 and May 2025 cleaned more than 16,000 encampments and more than 311,873 cubic yards of debris from sites along the state's right of way. Whenever someone came to town, like when Xi Jinping came, and they swept all those encampments away, which are back now, doesn't count. Whenever a dignitary, foreign dignitary, or somebody from the government, the president or someone visited, you hosed the streets down real quick. And then a few weeks later, it was right back where it started. You can't sit there and say that and expect anybody to take you seriously that that's effective. It has been in the past. Lucky says all kinds of compassion making people wear masks and take something they don't want. True. And Paul has joined us. Paul is here today. It says these results, quote, these results demonstrate that the policy is both effective and scalable, offering a sound, adoptable framework for jurisdictions to resolve encampments with urgency and dignity. That's a quote from Newsome. Okay. Dignity. Your cities have a poop map, which you can still find on the internet. You have a map detailing the highest exposure areas of human excrement in the streets. You are not handling this problem. Monday's announcement is in addition to the release of $3.3 billion in voter-approved morons Proposition 1 funding, which Newsom's office said will be made available later today to communities statewide. Those funds are being used to expand behavioral health, housing, and treatment options for the most seriously ill and homeless in California. Like totally, grody people, gotta wash them up. Like, ew. Frank Zappa would be proud. Delo says we don't like Newsome. Somebody's voting for him. Somebody's voting for him and his policies. I don't know what to tell you. Is this $3.3 billion that you just approved, is someone actually going to keep track of where and how it's spent this time? Because you already lost $30 billion this way. In 5 years, you lost more than $30 billion. Don't know where the hell it went. We spent it on the homeless, but yeah, where and how? Oh, we don't know. We didn't keep any records. We didn't keep records. We don't know where the money is. Oh, incredible. Those funds are being used to expand behavioral health, housing, and treatment options for the most seriously ill and homeless in California. Quote again from Newsom's office, his handler. This model ordinance is not intended to be comprehensive or to impose a one-size-fits-all approach for every city. Tailoring is expected and appropriate to account for local differences and priorities. The guidance doesn't say whether criminal penalties should be enforced, but instead would leave it up to cities to enforce how severely those who violate the ban should be punished. Newsom's office said all local approaches should reflect 3 basic principles. Number 1, no person should face criminal punishment for sleeping outside when they have nowhere else to go. Number 2, encampment policies must prioritize. Uh-oh, hold still. Excuse me, having an ad problem. Must prioritize shelter and service and ensure that people experiencing homelessness and their belongings are treated with respect. Number 3, Policies must not unduly limit local authorities to clear encampments, meaning officials must be able to enforce common sense policy to protect the health and safety of their residents and maintain their public spaces. You're going to hose down the street and shuffle the people into another town like you did every other time. Peter says he's under investigation, Newsome. He should be. He should be. Says Californians demand swift action to address our state's behavioral health crisis when they voted for Prop 1 in March 2024, according to Newsome. I wonder if they truly knew what it was that they were voting for. Did they think that they were just voting for money to go to the homeless? Or do they have any clue how it's going to be managed? And did they think about the fact that $30 billion is already missing from their from their homelessness fund? $30 billion's already gone missing. They lost 30 plus billion in homeless funding in 5 years. They lost 30 something billion in COVID relief money that allegedly was hacked by Chinese terrorists or something. They lost 30 billion from their unemployment funds that they can't account for. But we're supposed to trust this. Nobody knows who that is, Brian. I put that comment up. You know how that works. So they want to pretend to clean the streets up now. You've had, what, damn near 6 years to do it? Again, elected in 2019, correct? Or initially? Flukeman wants to know, why aren't politicians in prison for spending taxpayers' money without obtaining receipts? Hasn't got any to show for. Like New York Metro, we're supposed to maintain it, but they did nothing. Immunity? I have no idea. You're probably right there, Brian. Because, a lot of times they pop in, they make a statement and run. In addition to cleaning up homeless encampments, Newsome's office also announced $3.3 billion in grant funding to create 5,000 residential treatment beds and more than 21,800 outpatient treatment slots for behavioral health care services. Is that basically like the program they already have where they give you free drug paraphernalia? And that's supposed to keep you from harming yourself? Is it like that? But no, we're not done with Newsome. He's all over the news today. He is all over the news today. And we've got, what is this, an LA Times article coming up here. Because he's taken a lot of slack for using state funds for illegal immigrant health care. LA Times, again, Newsome calls for walking back free health care for eligible undocumented immigrants. An undocumented immigrant, again, soft language, undocumented equals illegal. And he doesn't want to associate himself with that now, even though he's been doing it for years. Governor Gavin Newsom's 2025-26 revised budget proposal reneges on his signature policy to provide free health care coverage to all low-income, undocumented immigrants as costs exceed expectations and the state anticipates challenging economic times ahead. You have no idea. Wait till you see the next couple of articles I have coming up. Newsom's office said the governor's spending plan, which will be released late Wednesday morning, calls for requiring all undocumented adults to pay $100 monthly premiums to receive Medi-Cal coverage and for blocking all new adult applications to the program as of January 1st. So you're not really kicking existing people off the program. You're trying to charge them $100 a month for it, is what that is, which they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay that. They've been getting it for free. Why would they pay it? The cost share will reduce the financial burden on the state and could lower the total number of people enrolled in the healthcare program if some immigrants cannot afford the new premiums. Did you catch how that was worded? I'll read that sentence again. The cost share will reduce the financial burden on the state. You're still spending a fortune, but whatever, $100, and could, here's the critical part, lower the total number of people enrolled in the healthcare program if some immigrants cannot afford the new premiums. So they're claiming they're going to save money because they're counting on that people will not be able to afford it, and that they'll just kind of disappear. Gotcha. Frankie's here. He says it's all smoke and mirrors for his presidential dreams. No kidding. Nature Nerd says inflation is down to the lowest point in 4 years when Trump was president last. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. People can bitch if they want to, but he's getting the job done whether they like it or not, or like his methods or not. Peter says, so these states like California cannot infringe on the First Amendment as demonstrated in many Supreme Court cases. So how do they continually injuring on the Second Amendment? I have no idea. Infringe, you mean, on the Second Amendment? That's a lot of conversation. It's the same way that Illinois did it when I was in Illinois, because they were under a lot of scrutiny for the way that they handled gun rights in Illinois, and the federal government was going to force them into a position of being constitutional carry, which means no paperwork. You can do whatever you want. And Illinois didn't want that, and they did a little, okey doke with the IRA, which is the Illinois Rifle Association. The NRA, the National Rifle Association, walked away because they were like, yeah, that's what everybody wants, constitutional carry, so we'll leave this alone. The IRA was in bed with the state government at that time and convinced lobbying groups and gun clubs that they didn't want that they wanted licensing because it would keep the criminal element from having firearms. I had a big argument with people about this at a gun club in Illinois. And my point, of course, is if it's illegal, they're going to do it anyways, whether you have a license or not. But now you've positioned yourself by voting for this, which nullified the federal government saying, no, your laws are overbearing. Constitutional carry is what you should have. To now you need 2 freaking licenses. You need your FOID card and you need another one. And they're so incredibly strict, it doesn't even make sense. And I've talked about this before because to get into the gun club, I had to retake gun classes, as well as it was a shooting range I was accessing. And you also, to purchase firearms or ammunition, you needed to take classes, which is part of the state regulation, as well as laws that are so strict that if you don't have your FOID card, which is a firearms identification, and you got pulled over and you had a box of ammunition, if you had like a box of 50 9mm rounds that you forgot about that's in your car from when you went to the shooting range, and you didn't have your card with you, you could get charged 50 counts of illegal transporting of ammunition, 1 for each bullet. That's how strict it is. But those idiots voted for it. And I was like, why would you vote to hem yourselves up? That's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And California is basically doing the same thing. Frankie says he's backtracking everything he ever pushed, so he seems more moderate lefty than full-on crazy liberal. Correct. That's exactly what he's doing. But back into this article right here. It says freezing enrollment may prevent the price tag of the program from continuing to balloon after more people signed up for the coverage than the state had anticipated. They didn't realize how many illegal immigrants were in the state, basically. The governor's office said the changes will save a combined $5.4 billion for the 2028-2029 fiscal period. But that's a stretch. But did not detail the cost savings in the upcoming fiscal year that begins July 1st. It's because they have no freaking clue. Newsome is expected Wednesday to project a deficit for California in the fiscal year ahead, which includes higher than expected Medi-Cal costs and more significant shortfalls estimates for the following years. And I'm going to be reading about that here in a minute, because his budget makes no damn sense. But I've got some information on his budget pulled up. So now he's walking back the homeless. He's acting like he gives a shit about homeless. And now he's walking back paying free medical to illegal immigrants. Notice the article that they don't say that some people will be off the program because they're going to jail. Oh no. And Lucky wants to know, did I serve? Nothing that I can talk about. My wife was 82nd Airborne and emergency field medic for 21 years. And anything I did belongs in Soldier of Fortune. Anyways. And she was in hot zones, by the way. She was stationed in Italy, but that was not her entire experience. She did a stretch in Italy, and she did a stretch in South Korea, but then she was also deployed in Afghanistan and in Iraq and places like that. Spent a lot of time, unfortunately, either treating the enemy or cleaning up suicides. Oh, I said the S word. I got to be careful. As we roll deeper into California here, Washington Examiner article coming up here. California approves State Farm's request for emergency rate hikes after spending billions on the LA fires, something they said they weren't going to do. Oh, but to keep the insurance companies from completely vacating California altogether, allowed for them to raise their rates. California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lavragava gave the green light to State Farm's emergency request to hike rates after the company suffered billions in losses due to the fires that devastated Los Angeles earlier this year. State Farm covers 20% of the area affected by the fires that ripped across Los Angeles in January, which is, it said, ranked among the costliest disasters in the history of State Farm. The insurance company said that as of May 12th, it paid out more than $3.51 billion in losses, processing so far 12,692 claims. Lara approved State Farm's request for a 17% hike for homeowners in response to the fires on Tuesday. The increase will affect more than 1 million policy holders in the state and is set to take effect June 1st. The company initially requested 22%, but negotiated to 17%. The commissioner's decision follows a months-long dispute between Lara and State Farm that started when the fires sparked in January. Most insurance companies don't want to be in California anyways. Just in Case wants to know how many states I've lived in. Oh, man. You see, Massachusetts, Kansas, South Carolina, Georgia, Illinois. Unless I forgot one. And Flukeman says the fact that they purposely don't tell you the difference between legal and illegal immigrants and how a refugee system works is as immoral as it can be. Correct. Correct indeed. Let me see. Laura held a hearing about raising rates and later took the case before a judge. On Tuesday, the commissioner signed off on a ruling on the situation issued by Judge Carl Frederick Seligman the same day. Good for them. So there goes the price increases. But we knew that was going to happen. It's the only way to keep the insurance companies there. They already didn't want to be there because of theft and vandalism, which is ruining businesses in California. Entire city blocks are closed. It looks like Detroit in a lot of those places. And now you have these wildfires, and that was just too much. That was just too much. And they were like, no, that's enough. That's enough. We're done. Unless we can negotiate something. If we could negotiate something. Nature Nerd says if California allowed logging and forest management and had less regulations to allow people to cut trees on their own property, they would have less forest fires. Very likely. Very likely. Says the proposed interim rate stipulation serves the best interest of California consumers and the public. Taken as a whole, it represents a fundamentally fair, adequate, necessary measure, effectively functioning as a rescue mission to stabilize State Farm's financial condition while safeguarding policyholders. Californians deserve a process grounded in fairness, transparency, and integrity, not politics or posturing. The commissioner says in a statement, this is why I requested an independent review of the evidence by an administrative law judge who presented a proposed decision. I ordered this hearing to ensure that the parties have the opportunity to present their arguments before a neutral arbiter. Let me be clear, this is true. We are in a statewide insurance crisis affecting millions of Californians. That's true. They are in a crisis. They've been in a crisis for years. It's not just because of the wildfires. I find the opening of his quote, and this is Laura, I find the opening of his quote fascinating, and someone should explain this to Governor Newsome. They should explain it to the mayors of San Francisco and Los Angeles and a lot of other politicians in California. Californians deserve what? A process grounded in fairness, transparency, and integrity, not politics or posturing. Sounds really good on paper. Sounds really good on paper. But will it change anything? I mean, politicians love to pretend that they're transparent. Oh, we need transparency, but of course they mean you need to be transparent. And you have no choice. Because if you're not, you're in violation of the law, but for some reason they can do it. Politico, we're still talking about Newsome. Newsome to propose extending a landmark California climate law. Oh, this is where he's going to trip up if he's trying to act like he's not an extreme far left Democrat politician. Governor Gavin Newsom on Tuesday proposed a 15-year extension of California's signature cap and trade system for greenhouse gases, a cornerstone of the state's climate policies and a reliable revenue generator. Newsom's long-awaited proposal, reported first by Politico, would reauthorize the state's quarterly auction of emissions permits and change the way some of the proceeds are spent. It comes months after Newsom's first indicated his plans to do so, and weeks after Trump attacked the state's program in an April executive order. Newsom's plan would also address another California initiative under attack by the Trump administration. Specifically, it would convert the proportion of revenue that funds the state's hot-button high-speed rail project from a 25% carve-out to a guaranteed minimum funding level of $1 billion a year. Quote, California won't bend the knee to a federal administration hell-bent on making America polluted again, according to Newsome. Cap and invest is the next chapter for one of our most effective tools to clean the air and keep our communities healthy. Your communities are not healthy. And this is not helping you. And you claim you're going to make more money this way, but then you say you're going to jump the monorail or the rail system to another $1 billion annually. Okay? $1 billion annually. On a failure system. Because that rail system hasn't gone anywhere. They've been building it for years. Building it for years. And where's it gotten them? And the money that they collect from regulations does not offset how much is spent on these programs. Okay, yeah, you make 1.5 billion extra a year in fees and regulations, but what difference does that make if it's costing you 10? Lucky says, before I forget, I've been trying to share this channel. Thank you. There'll be 2 other ones today. Canary Cry Radio will be on soon. They are on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, usually after this. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Lucky. Frankie says what politicians mean when they say transparency is show us your bank account balance. There you go. And Peter said climate laws. Meanwhile, Antarctica has had the largest ice gain in decades. That's right. I read that. And Fluke Man doesn't understand why those who hate California still live there if they can afford to move and nothing's keeping them there. That is. Well, that's part of the problem. It's not easy for most people to just pick up and go. There's not a lot of people who are able to just pick up and go. I can't stand living here anymore. I need to get the hell out of here, which I have done. That's why I got out of Massachusetts. Couldn't afford it anymore. Didn't like their laws. And it took everything I could do to get from California to Kansas. Everything I could possibly do. And then when I made my first jump out of Kansas, I left with basically nothing. I had nothing left anyway, so it didn't matter because of all that had happened with my ex and everything ruining my life. So I could pick up and go anywhere at that point. But yeah, I mean, most people don't have the resources. And then fortunately, when I made the next jump, when I jumped here, my wife and I were just in a better position. Lucky says, Dabu77 is another good one. It comes on at 9 p.m. Another good one, known him a good 10 years. Okay, I'll leave that up there for a second as we get ready to transition to the next story here. Because this, I got at least, is this the next one? Yeah, this is the one I wanted to focus on. This is where it culminates with Newsome here. Okay. Washington Examiner again. Newsome to roll out revised budget that will be at least $10 billion in the red. And you know what that means if you're not familiar with the terminology. In the red means bad. It means bad. Armored Ghost said wasting money for years and building nothing. Yeah, California. Definitely. But listen to this. Their new budget proposal is such a mess, they don't even know how much it's going to bankrupt the state. And they think this is good. So California Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to shift the blame for his state's massive budget woes onto President Trump, accusing the tariffs of being responsible when he releases his revised 2025/26 budget proposal Wednesday. Oh, so California, it's not decades of bad management. It's not decades of bad management. It's Trump. It's Trump because of the tariffs, which he has not even imposed yet. He has not even imposed yet. Because, that was just a lot of leverage to force these countries to come to the table, which is working. He hasn't really forced that on anyone yet. It's Trump's fault. That's why California is a shithole. Wildfires, doo-doo maps or human excrement warnings, thousands of homeless people ransacking the streets, legacy stores going out of business, companies leaving the state altogether, insurance companies not wanting to do business in the state anymore. Trump, tariffs. I gotcha. I got it. Okay. Listen to how bad this budget is. Newsome, a presumed contender for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2028, is expected to go from the roughly balanced budget he announced in January to one that will be a minimum of $10 billion to a maximum of $30 billion over budget for the season. So for the fiscal period, we don't know how bad it's going to be. Maybe we'll overspend $10 billion. Maybe we'll overspend by 30. Wait and see. And it's Trump's fault. Newsome teased his comments earlier this week, calling the broader economic damage to California the Trump slump. He's expected to continue to call out Trump and the harm to the state from his trade policies and public threats to withhold federal funding from California. Yeah, if you were doing your job, Trump wouldn't have nothing to say to you. Unless your job is to destroy California, which I suspect is a possibility. It is a possibility. We've talked about that before. It wouldn't surprise me at all. There's all these tech giants and these other multi-billionaires that want to build their 15-minute cities in California that are buying up huge areas of abandoned property for pennies on the dollar because entire city blocks have been abandoned. And policies in California are what allowed them to get that bad. So it could be that Newsom did it all on purpose and other lawmakers are in on it. But it's Trump's fault. On Tuesday, Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta announced that the state would file a new motion for a preliminary injunction to stop Trump's tariffs. You can't do it because tariffs are federal. You know this. Why are you wasting tax money on a bullshit trial that's going to get thrown out as soon as you open the doors? As part of California's lawsuit challenging the presidential use of emergency power, the governor's office said the tariffs, are projected to cost California consumers $25 billion and result in the loss of over 64,000 jobs at minimum. It added that the total cost of Trump's tariffs is projected to be upwards of $40 billion. As the largest economy in the nation, California has the most to lose from President Trump's weak and reckless policies, according to Newsom. It's funny, Newsom doesn't talk like that when he's face to face with Trump. Have you ever noticed? Did you notice that? He doesn't have that kind of snarky attitude face to face. It's kind of like the same way that Carney behaved. Carney was all piss and vinegar when he was sworn in as prime minister. He had a lot of shit to talk about Trump, but when he was sitting there with Trump, he didn't have nothing to say. He was very meek. Very meek. And there's Jane. Jane has joined us. No felines in the room today, Jane. They're sleeping all over the house, but not in here. Cap says also they should stop putting fluoride in the water. It's not helping the environment and it's ruining it. If remind me that if next time if you guys are watching, and my wife, because she pops in occasionally, she has been on a couple of times. I'd like to get her on more, but you know the work schedule between us is off. But ask her about fluoride. Ask her about fluoride because she has experience in water treatment, working for the state of Georgia as in an official capacity. And the people that work at the treatment plants are chomping at the bit for fluoride to be taken away because of how dangerous it is. They hate working with it. They hate working with it. The story she told me about when they, because the managers out there who add the chemicals to the water, that put in the chlorine, that put in the fluoride and the other chemicals, said that the stuff is so extremely dangerous that if you spill it on the floor, it'll dissolve right through the floor almost immediately, like in the movie Aliens, when the acid blood spills, it eats right through everything. And we're drinking this shit and bathing in it. They're terrified of this stuff. They're terrified of this stuff. So this guy has come up with a budget that is so bad that he doesn't know, hey, this year we could go 10 billion over budget, we could go 30 billion over budget. And wants to blame Trump for that. He wants to blame Trump. It's Trump's fault because of tariffs that aren't even imposed yet. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I catch up a couple of comments here. Armored said Trump should do a televised interview with Newsome. Yeah, see if he might be forced into running his mouth to look bold. And Kent is here. He says he's full of piss and vinegar anytime. Anytime. And yeah, there's a lot of I believe I read an article earlier this week that the FDA has been forced to admit that they know fluoride does not work for tooth decay. It doesn't actually help. So then why are we doing it? Well, you can speculate about that all day. You can speculate about that all day long. As we get to a Mediaite article here about AOC, it says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez warns Trump administration, if they lay a finger on members of Congress, we are going to have a problem. And this is just more of that arrogance that a lot of these lawmakers have, that they feel literally untouchable. Representative AOC came to the defense of her fellow Democratic lawmakers this week by warning the Trump administration officials they could be having a problem with her. I think everybody has a problem with this chick. Ocasio-Cortez took to Instagram after the Department of Homeland Security suggested they may pursue arrests of 3 Democratic lawmakers who partook in Newark, New Jersey. That's Representatives Bonnie Watson Coleman from New Jersey, Bob Mendez from New Jersey, and LaMonica McIver from New Jersey. That's McIver, not MacGyver like the show MacGyver, but MacGyver with an I. All attended that protest. Yeah, they were all virtue signaling, and they got hemmed up. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin told CNN on Saturday lawmakers could be arrested, suggesting some had assaulted federal agents. The lawmakers maintained they had a legal right to be there. Mendez said in a statement that members of Congress have a legal right to conduct oversight at any DHS facility without prior notice. He claimed the ICE officials tried to intimidate them and impede their oversight efforts. They can't just show up. We talked about this. They have to book an appointment. And these Democrat lawmakers keep doing stuff like this. Maxine Waters again comes to mind. Okay. That they show up at these federal buildings without an appointment and without authorization, and they pretend like they're being restricted. And it's a form of virtue signaling. Quote, it says, from roughing up members of Congress to arresting the mayor of our state's largest city, there is no version of today that does not show the blatant abuse of power of the Trump administration. If anyone breaking a law in this situation is not a member of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. She claimed DHS is using public intimidation because they cannot come for us all. And she warned there'd be a problem should her colleagues actually end up in cuffs. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, on any of these representatives that was there, you lay a finger on them, we's going to have a problem, because the peoples who is breaking the law are the peoples not abide by it. Yeah, that's right. If they're breaking the law, it's because they're not abiding by the law. That's right, AOC. You kind of had a little Freudian slip there and revealed the truth. That's exactly right. And this is what the scene looked like, with everybody wrestling and tussling. And that's those representatives there that are trying to push their way through the gate. And that's why they were escorted away. And that's why the mayor got arrested. They did that on purpose to virtue signal. Flukeman says, is fluoride toothpaste bad for your teeth? You can find it without fluoride, and I recommend that. This is something that we've been talking about also. It involves the Pope. Juan is here. He says, I lived in California. It's too liberal for me. I'm a 90s liberal. Wacky is only good in cartoons. Good point. Let me pause this. I wanted to show this video clip, and I hope I can play it with the audio without being interrupted. And it's an Al Jazeera video clip. Okay, Al Jazeera. And we've been talking about this with now Pope Leo. Okay, because Pope Leo claims, the claim from the Catholic Church, and they're claiming that he's a person of color now. We read the article claiming blackness because a great-great-grandparent may have been mixed and may have been from either the Caribbean or Haiti or somewhere they don't even know. And which would, if it's even true, make him like 6.12%, something that's not European, which I'm willing to bet he's not bloody well likely to get a DNA test anytime soon. So I cascade through a few of those comments there really quickly for you to see, because I can't read them all. Okay. They're claiming that, Africa is becoming Catholic now. This is what it looks like, which is why I'm showing this. I'm going to show this clip here really quick for those of you who can see, and for those of you who can't, I'll try to explain it really quick. All right. I'm going to use the audio on this one.
Charismatic churches are gaining popularity in Africa, Some of them promise prosperity and miracle cures. Using music and dance, people who attend services are encouraged to freely express themselves. That includes speaking and worshipping in local languages.
And then we pay particular attention to evangelism, especially one-to-one evangelism. And we are culturally relevant, as you could see today during our worship time. We are using the local language, and so worshiping the local language, a medium of expression.
The Catholic Church is competing with these new churches for followers, but unlike
when my hair started thinning, I didn't want to hear the word.
Hold on.
where Catholicism seems to be declining, Africa has the world's fastest growing Catholic community.
The Almighty God have mercy on us.
And in Ghana, the Catholic Church is an institution that commands a lot of respect.
It's just this communal spirit, the spirit of belonging. Not just because we are Africans, but for us as Ghanaians, we extend a hand of welcome to everybody who comes. And I think it cuts across all Africa.
But as I pointed out, the problem with it is just like you see in South America, that they merged the Catholicism with whatever else all they already got, whatever craziness they already have. And as I pointed out yesterday, you know, my sister's father was Cuban, and I met his mother. Okay, and his mother is a Catholic, a Cuban Catholic. Hey, Marvel fan, I see Marvel fan is here. A Cuban Catholic who had a shrine in her house with all these like statues of Mary and crucifixes and 2 coconuts on like these little pedestals and a bottle of rum. And she would take a mouthful of the rum and spit it on the coconuts and throw pennies around the room and all kinds of weird stuff that she would do because the Catholicism got merged with whatever hokey voodoo religion that they have in Cuba. And you see this all through South America, and you see it in Africa too. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's great. Catholicism in Africa, and it's got a growing following. But what else also are they doing? What else also are they doing that's not Catholicism? I mean, it's already ripe with rituals that are not necessarily biblical. And I can just imagine how bad it is. The Nature Nerd says charismatic churches are not good churches. Catholic Church is better. Yeah, charismatic churches are bizarre. They are bizarre. And you can always tell, because I see them out here too. And you look and you're like, oh, African Church, because it have like this super long title. It was like the Church of Christ and the Miracles of the Lamb Redeemer United Church Episcopal, some crazy long ass title that doesn't make any sense. And there's always miracle in there somewhere. There's always miracle in there somewhere. Yeah, Catholic hoodoo voodoo. Armored. That's what they're going to end up with. And I'm not just trying to pick on them. You're Catholic, you're Catholic. I don't care. Go ahead and be Catholic. But I just think it's funny that they want to take a stab at this and act like they got this big new following in Africa. And it's not necessarily a good thing. Not necessarily a good thing. Let's go ahead and open the debt clock, which shows Doge projections currently at $430 billion, which suggests a savings per taxpayer of $3,832, less that we will owe because of this. As Doge continues, I haven't heard too much traction from them recently, again, they're only like halfway into a dozen or so organizations out of some 420 government agencies they're supposed to ultimately look at. And again, that is the moniker for Coffee Talk, youtube.com/@Coffee Talk Live. Again, I will remind you all that I am currently podcasting to two different YouTube channels, Coffee Talk and Prepper University, but I want to get Prepper University back to its core of like homesteading and bushcraft and that kind of stuff. So in the first week of June, Coffee Talk, the podcast, will go back to Coffee Talk, the channel, exclusively. So if you are subscribed to Prepper University and you watch it there, please also subscribe to the Coffee Talk channel. Please also subscribe to the Coffee Talk channel so that you will not lose access to the podcast. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. Again, you can also find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again tomorrow.